gateway. Let's see what the NetWeaver gateway is and what components consist of this NetWeaver gateway. Okay. So we will look at definitions of SAP NetWeaver gateway and gateway service builder. Basically SAP NetWeaver gateway is a technology which enables multiple devices, multiple platforms connect to SAP data or SAP applications. To simply put it, that is the definition of SAP NetWeaver gateway. What SAP gateway service builder is, gateway service builder is a transaction which comes as a part of SAP NetWeaver gateway. Basically, it gives flexibility to the users to create OData services. Okay, so that's about the definition part of it. Let's move on to what are the components contained in SAP NetWeaver gateway. Okay, so the following are the gateway components. One is gateway core. The second one is business enablement provisioning. The third one is foundation server. Okay. EW core, AWBEP. This is backend enablement provisioning, and this one is foundation server. So let's say if you are below 7.40, if you are on NetWeaver stack below 7.40, let's say on or above 7.40, right? So if you are below 7.40, these are the components which are part of the SAP NetWeaver gateway. But let's say if you are on 7.40 or above, there is only one component. So this is the single component which gives you all the functionality of NetWeaver gateway. But if you are below 7.40, these three components consist of all the functionality provided by SAP NetWeaver gateway. Okay, so we will see we will see where to put these components, but in order to understand what difference it makes, which component is there. So we will look at different architectures of SAP NetWeaver gateway. One being hub architecture, either or central hub deployment. The other one is embedded architecture or embedded deployment. The reason I'm talking about different deployment options is, let's say if the client wants to build a OData service, anybody could build a OData service. Let's say if you know ABAP and if you know a little bit of RESTful or OData, if you know gateway service builder, you could easily build a OData service. Not a big deal. But let's say if a customer approaches you and asks okay, what are the different deployment options in SAP NetWeaver gateway and what are all the pros and cons of different deployment options, you got to take a holistic view of all your systems in your landscape and you need to assess which deployment options would fit. Okay, but SAP is suggesting to go with the central hub deployment option, but in a while we will see what these deployment options means. What is the difference, what are all the pros and cons, right? So let's see now what is central hub deployment means. Okay, so in the central hub deployment you will have a uh, this is your SAP Business Suite. Let's say you might have a ECC, you might have another CRM system, or you might have another BW system. On top of all those, you are going to have another ABAP stack with SAP NetWeaver gateway components in it. Okay. So this is the gateway system. It does not have anything else. It just have SAP NetWeaver gateway components, right? Let's say if you are below 7.40, so I'm talking about central hub deployment. We're talking about central hub deployment. Let's say, I mean, so we are in central hub deployment. So we have a dedicated SAP NetWeaver gateway system. Okay, and we do have SAP backend business suite. Probably it might consist of ECC, CRM, BW, and I mean whatever the landscape might be, there might be several SAP business backend systems, right? So if you are below 7.40, you should have gateway core and foundation server components in SAP NetWeaver gateway system. But let's say if you are on 7.40 or above, I mean there is only one component, right? SAP if you are on 7.40 or above, you don't even need to install this component. I mean this component comes by default. I mean this include the whole functionality of SAP NetWeaver gateway, whereas gateway core and IW I mean foundation server will contain only a part of the functionality provided by SAP NetWeaver gateway. Then I mean what do you install in the backend? You need to, I mean if you are below 7.40, you need to have IWBEP backend enablement provisioning. But if you are on 7.40 or above, you need to have this component, right? So these are the components you should have in the central hub deployment option. So these are the components you should have in the central deployment option when you have I mean 7.40 NetWeaver 7.40 or above. Do you have any questions? I mean, is it confusing to you? Uh, Okay, so what happens is, I mean, in the central hub deployment, the consumers are going to hit the gateway hub system. From here, the gateway hub system will know to which system it should send the request. Once it sends the request back to ECC or BW or CRM or SRM, it is going to get the response and send it to the consumer. So you have a dedicated SAP NetWeaver gateway system with the required components on it. I mean, it is just an ABAP stack with the required gateway components installed on it. Basically, let's say if you are below 7.40, you need to have gateway core and I mean foundation server. If you are on above 7.40, you will just have this ZW foundation component. What do you need to have in the backend is, I mean, IWBEP if you are I mean below 7.40. If you are on or above 7.40, you will have this component. Okay. If you are on or above 7.40, you don't need to install this component. This component comes by default. Okay. Let's see what are all the pros and cons of this hub architecture. Okay. So basically, what happens in the central hub deployment is you are going to build all your services in IWBEP. You are going to build all your services in the business backend systems. Okay. This IWBEP will give you a CGW transaction, meaning gateway service builder. Okay, so this IWBEP will give you SEGW transaction. SEGW means gateway service builder. What this gateway service builder do is, it gives you provision to users to create all the OData services. Once you create these OData services in the back end, you are going to register those services in the hub system. So whenever the consumer request for certain service or certain resource in that service, the gateway system will find out which system it has been developed in, so that it will send the request, receive the response, and send the response back to the consumers. So basically you are putting a dedicated ABAP stack for SAP NetWeaver gateway system in front of all your SAP business systems. Let's see what are all the advantages and disadvantages in this model. Okay. So the first advantage is routing and composition of multiple systems is supported. Let's say you might have several business systems in your landscape, namely SAP ECC, BW, and CRM. You can develop OData services in ECC or BW or CRM or SRM, but you are just going to register all those services in the hub system. So whenever a request comes from the client for a certain resource, it can route to the proper business backend system. So let's say as part of your Fiori application, let's say if you are going to get the data from two systems, let's say if you want to get the data from SAP ECC and SAP CRM, but the client does not know where the data is coming from. It just requests the gateway hub to give me data. So the gateway system will find out, okay, this resource is, this service is developed in ECC system, so it will send the request to the ECC system. So the gateway hub system know that, okay, the other service is developed in the CRM system, so it sends the request and get the response and pass back to the consumer. So that is about the routing and composition of multiple systems. And the content, let's say, so whenever we develop the Fiori applications, we are going to integrate or deploy into this subsystem. And we are not going to deploy that into SAP business systems. We are going to deploy it to gateway system. So by having that, you are not going to touch your SAP business system, right? So the content can only the content will be deployed to only SAP Gateway Hub system. We are not going to touch the business backend system. We are going to develop these OData services in the backend, but we are going to register in the Gateway Hub system. That's where all the requests for the data is going to be. Okay. And the decoupling of consumer applications from SAP business system. This is one advantage. Okay. And let's say if there is some security threat, it don't come to the your backend business system, because the gateway hub system is going to receive that request with the security threat. So you are going to seal off your backend business systems from security threats and all. Okay. And let's say, the thing with SAP UI, SAP UI 5 is they are going to release these versions very fast. I mean, every month you are going to see one major enhancement in SAP UI, right? Let's say if you have your dedicated SAP NetWeaver gateway system, you don't need to take the business systems down in order to put that enhancement, because all that enhancements will be put in the SAP NetWeaver Gateway Hub system, because that's where we are going to deploy all our UI or Fiori applications, right? So let's say if there is an innovation in UI5 libraries, we are not going to touch the backend business systems. We are just going to touch the gateway hub systems, and we can easily get those enhancement or patches very fast, because in order to take a backend system down, and probably you don't take backend business system down for maintenance, in a typical scenario, probably once or twice or thrice a year you will take it down. But these UI enhancements are going to be released very fast, so it is better to have a dedicated NetWeaver gateway hub system, so that the innovations you could get it very fast. Okay. And by developing the OData services in the backend, you still have local access to your data elements, your function modules or class method or DDAC structures and all. So you are not going to lose anything. And let's say, let's say if you are going to build UI5 applications for, ECC, you are going to build SAP UI5 applications for CRM, UI5 or Fiori applications for SRM or some other system. All those applications will be deployed in the NetWeaver Gateway Hub system. Let's say if you want to do any theming or branding, all your branding will be one place, because all the applications will be deployed to Gateway Hub system. That's where you will maintain all your branding and theming, so that you don't need to copy to the individual business systems. So these are all the advantages, routing and composition of multiple systems. Innovation in UI can be reached very fast, because you are not going to touch the backend business systems. And you are going to uh, secure your backend business systems, because the gateway hub system will receive the request. Even if something happens, it stops there. You are not going to pass that threat to ECC or your backend business systems. And you still have direct, since we are developing these OData services in the backend system, we still have access to all our metadata and all. And we don't need to copy theming or branding for these UI5 or Fiori applications across the backend business systems, because we are just going to put all of those applications in one place, that is the gateway system. Okay. Those are all the advantages. The disadvantages is, you need to maintain an extra system. Let's say you need to maintain this gateway system, extra, that is, added maintenance. And the other one is, since you are not going to hit directly backend business system, there is a extra remote function call from the gateway system to the corresponding backend business system, because whenever a request comes to the gateway system, it will send an RFC call to the backend system to get the response. So every time you make a call to the gateway system, it will send another RFC call, trusted RFC call to backend business system. So for every request, there is an additional RFC call. So, but by weighing the pros and cons, this is the good approach to have a dedicated SAP NetWeaver gateway system. Even SAP suggests to go with this. Okay. So any doubts? In central hub deployment option?
Sudhir,
Yeah.
Jagan here.
Okay. Go ahead, Jagan.
So one question, so So you are saying all the function modules, data, everything is available at the gateway system, right?
No. I mean, we develop the OData
All the
service.
SAP data.
Yeah.
No, like, so as the pros of the, one of the point is like direct local access to metadata and the business data
Mm-hmm.
and other information available at the gateway system, right?
I mean, it is not available to the gateway system because
Mm-hmm.
we are going to develop these services in the backend system. We are not going to develop these OData services in gateway system. We are going to develop in the backend business system. But we are going
Okay,
to
okay.
access it through the gateway system. We are going to register it. We are going to register those services in the gateway system. So if anybody
Oh,
wanted to use it, they are going to hit the gateway system.
okay. So any SAP data like SAP table data or whatever it is required, we need to use the BAPI or something
Uh-huh.
to connect back to the backend system, right?
No. I mean, the whole service development will happen in the backend business system. We will create the
Oh,
service. I mean, we will use all the metadata, I mean, like data elements or structures and all, I mean, from the backend itself. But we are not
okay.
going to directly access it from the backend system. There is another step called registering the service. We are going to register that service in the hub system. So
So
outside,
basically
Okay.
the SAP system will have the SEGW transaction in the back end.
yes.
So okay.
Okay. So I'm in a thought that like SEW which has a backend system, I thought it is a gateway system. Okay.
No. I mean, if you see my notepad here, right? In the SAP backend system, you will have IW_BEP component. This is backend enablement provisioning, and this component will give you SEGW transaction, meaning Gateway Service Builder. This is where all our development for the OData happens. After we are done with the development, we are just going to there is an extra step to register this service in the gateway system. How to register it? You need to have a trusted RFC connection between the gateway hub system and business backend system. Then from the from the gateway system, you can find all the services developed in the backend system. So you will register that service in the hub system.
What was the transaction to register? I know it is too quick to ask, but just to know that.
That is called, this is the transaction.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So it is called, activate and maintain services. And you will get a NetWeaver gateway client. That's where you will test your service. That is also will be in the gateway hub system. And you will have, to see the error logs and all, you will have different. This is where you will see all your error logs, let's say in case if you encounter any error. I think it is, this is the gateway client in hub.
And all these transactions are probably provided by the IWFND component. That is why the transaction name starts with IWFND, right?
Yes. So, I mean, in the gateway client, you will, I mean, test the service before you pass on to the UI developer. I mean, once you develop the service in the backend, you register it and you will, I mean, test the service. You can test, I mean, this is a integrated environment where you can test the whole scenarios, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, any questions?
No.
Hey,
Is
Jagan.
it possible to reprocess the failed messages or error out messages from
Now,
gateway?
the thing is, I mean, this is a synchronous messaging. I mean, this is not asynchronous. Let's say if I request for some resource, right? Let's say if there is a problem, you will send the error message to the user. In a web application, let's say if you want to, I mean, transfer money from one user to other user in your bank application, right? Let's say
Yeah.
if I transfer the money, I mean, there will be only two outcomes. Either it successfully transfers the money or it will send an error message to me saying that, okay, I mean, this is your problem, contact customer support or something, right? There won't be,
Yes.
I mean, after it failed, I mean, the bank does not, I mean, process that message again because these are, I mean, synchronous communication. I mean, in your web applications, it is all synchronous. This is not asynchronous. So that, I mean, if a message fails, somebody else will reprocess it. I mean, that don't happen. I mean, in
Yeah.
real
Right.
time,
So it does not support. Yeah, it does not support asynchronous. I mean, developing asynchronous APIs.
no, I mean it don't work that way. I mean in web applications, right? Let's say if you go to, I mean any web applications, let's say if you go to Amazon and place an order, if it fails, I don't think the system will, I mean, try to process it again until or unless you, I mean, send the request again to place the order. That's how the web applications or mobile applications work. There won't be anybody or system try to reprocess it. I mean, it won't work that way.
And basically web applications all are have to be synchronous. They cannot be asynchronous, right? I mean, you
Yes.
want the results immediately. You don't want it after some time.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, technically, in SOAP web services, we can have asynchronous web service also. I mean, 90% of web services are synchronous, but technically it is possible to have a synchronous web service also. So that's why I'm asking this, whether it is,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
your question is
whether we use
valid.
this use case or not, that is up to business, I mean, business requirement, but technically whether it is possible or not, that's what my
I don't,
doubt.
I mean, I'm not sure, but I don't think it is not possible and it is not needed to. I mean, in SOAP web services and all, let's say if you are communicating from system to system, that is different. But here, I mean, you are, I mean, it is the communication is basically between customer to business, right? I don't think it is
Yes.
supported. I mean, just to put it simply.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, yeah, let's move on to the embedded, I mean, deployment. Even though, I mean, not lots of clients prefer embedded deployment option, but I mean, still we got to discuss and all. So here, right? So in the embedded deployment, right? In the embedded deployment, there is so no gateway, right? So all the components are in the so this is how I mean all the components are in the backend system. Okay, if you are below 7.40, these are all the components you need to install in SAP backend system. This is the component if you are on 7.40. I mean, you don't need to install, I mean, this component separately. It comes by default if you are running 7.4 or above. Okay. So in this case, the consumers are directly in this case, the consumers are directly, I mean, sending the request to the backend business system. Okay. You are going to develop the services in the system through, I mean, since you have IWBEP component, you will get like gateway service builder. So you will develop all your services here and you are going to register your services here so that the consumers are directly requesting, I mean, from backend business system for the response. Okay.
So this is what we have in our client's place.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that it is not good or anything, but I mean, it definitely has disadvantages. We will see, I mean, what those disadvantages are.
Right, Jagan? This is what we have, right?
Yes, I
Jagan?
think that's the reason, I was asking earlier the question.
Right, right.
So I think
No,
we have similar to this.
because in our case, it is very limited. I mean, we have developed the UI applications very limited, right, at this point of time. It depends on the volume also, right? When you have more number of backend systems, you're developing in more number of backend systems, then maybe it is recommended to use Hub Gateway.
No, I mean,
But at this point of time,
I'll show
yeah.
you one thing. I mean, let's say it is not about, I mean, having different, I mean, several backend systems. Let's say I will show you. Uh, so this is SAP UI5 libraries. I mean, basically, let's say if you go right. So if you see, there are several versions. I mean, first one is the major version and the second number you see here is the enhancement. Whatever it follows is the patches, right? So, I mean, in the last 1 year, they have, I mean, released, I mean, at least 6 major enhancements, 2.6 to 2.8. I think it is even in less than 6 months. I mean, they have added lots of enhancements. Let's say, uh, basically what it does is, I mean, basically SAP UI5 is a collection of libraries. Let's say if there is a new UI component, I mean, if somebody invented a new UI component or if somebody comes with some cool feature, they wanted to include that into the SAP UI5 libraries, right? So for every major enhancement, either there will be lot of changes in the existing UI components or existing SAP UI5 libraries, or they will add new UI components in order to meet the, I mean, today's requirements. Let's say if you wanted to take down your backend business system for every 2 months in order to put it, and I mean, you got to test the whole thing, even if you put like even if you upgrade SAP NetWeaver gateway, but you still got to test all your process because I mean the clients don't want to. I mean this care. Let's say whenever you put a new component or whenever you put a new enhancement, even if it I mean even if you know that technically it does not affect your process, you still got to test it, right? So that is one big thing about having a dedicated SAP NetWeaver gateway system. I mean, that is one of the big thing because you cannot take down your ECC or BW or like CRM systems for every 2 months. Let's say if you take it down and put the new SAP NetWeaver gateway patches or UI components, you still got to test all your backend business processes, right? That is one of the disadvantage. Does it make sense?
So the way, yeah, makes sense. But the way, the way we have been, I mean, the way we are doing it is, I mean, so the service that we create on the NetWeaver gateway system is basically through functioning through RFCs.
No, I mean, even in the central hub, you are going to develop in the backend business system, but you are just going to access it through gateway system.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, what I'm trying to say is, I mean, it will not, I mean, the embedded system, I mean, it will not, I mean, even though you bring down the NetWeaver gateway system for upgrades,
Mm-hmm.
for applying patches, I mean, it will not affect the backend systems.
No, because you have SAP NetWeaver gateway on your ECC system. I mean, which system you will bring down for maintenance? SAP NetWeaver gateway component is not an independent system. It is a component on your backend business system, either ECC or CRM or any system it is. Does it make sense?
Jagan, can you help me? So we had a class on OData services, okay, and then what we did was we created the RFC in the SAP backend system, and then we created the OData service on the SAP NetWeaver gateway system, and
No, I
then we
mean,
use that.
let's say, I mean, SAP NetWeaver gateway is not a system. It is just a component. When I mean
It's just
SAP NetWeaver gateway system, it is an ABAP stack with SAP NetWeaver gateway components in it. It does not have any backend business data. It is just an ABAP stack with NetWeaver gateway components in it.
Sudhir, I want to add one point here.
Okay.
What Shibu is saying is like we have general ABAP stack system, right? Where we do all the functional modules, whatever it is, all the data available and all the BAP is available.
Okay.
So we have logged into a different system, a different SAP system, and where we created the OData, registered the service and the model, the OData, and we called a BAP in SAP system. I mean, actual backend system.
Okay.
So there are, physically there are two systems are there.
Two ABAP stack.
Okay.
Yes, two SAP systems.
Okay, I will show you, I mean, what you are talking about.
Yeah. So all the data basically is in the other SAP ABAP stack.
No, I mean, I will show you, I mean, you are talking about, oh, sorry. So there is a very, okay, one second.
Shibu, you are talking about X23 system?
Yeah.
No, I got it.
I
mean, okay, yeah, I got it.
That is our dedicated gateway system. So where it have a gateway component, I mean, it's not a backend system, it is dedicated gateway. Yeah. So it is embedded, it is not embedded, it is central hub model.
No, I mean, okay, yeah. Hey guys, I mean, I got it. I mean, let me explain it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you see, can you see this, I mean, picture? In the central hub deployment, you again have like different flavors, right?
Oh, okay.
So I'm talking about the first one. Okay. If you see, it is just SAP NetWeaver Gateway Hub system, but the service implementation and all the OData service happens in the backend. Let's say in the second flavor, you have, I mean, this is your hub system. You create your OData services in the hub system, but you, I mean, to get the data, you just, I mean, RFC it to the backend. This is what you are talking about.
Right.
But the problem is, let's say if you wanted to get any structure, if you wanted to get any metadata, you need to copy all that. Let's say if you want to use the structure or data elements, I mean, let's say if you have a lot of Z data elements, or if you have a lot of Z structures which you want as part of this OData service, you need to copy all that from your backend business system to the hub system. So that is the only disadvantage. I mean, everything we talked about the central hub deployment applies in your landscape too.
So basically what you're saying is we have the central hub deployment.
Yes. But you are doing, I mean, you are doing, I mean, OData service and all in the gateway system instead of the backend system. The only disadvantage is, I mean, you need to get all the metadata. Let's say if you want to use your Z data elements, or if you want to use, I mean, any Z structures or any data elements that you want to use, you still got to create all of it in the gateway hub system.
Okay.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So let us, I mean, see what are all the disadvantages of, I mean, embedded architecture. Definitely the pros are, I mean, you have one less system to maintain in your landscape, and you do have, every time there is a request, I mean, there is no remote function call. I mean, there is no trusted RFC connection, so you are going to reduce the overhead, okay? That is the advantage. Uh, let's say the disadvantages are, let's say, um, let's say if you deploy all your UI applications, let's say you have three backend business systems. One is CRM, and the other one is ECC, and the other one is BW or SRM, something like that. Let's say if you develop, three different applications pointing to those backend business systems, right? So you got to deploy those applications in the corresponding backend systems. Let's say if you got to do theming and branding, which you want, I mean, uniform across your organization, you got to copy all that theming and branding. Okay, that is one disadvantage. And I mean, you are directly letting users connect to your backend business system. There is, those systems are more prone to, the security attacks and all. Okay, and upgrade in backend business systems, in large companies and all, it is not easy. So that, you don't get the innovations in UI very fast, because you got to coordinate with all your business teams and all. Since it is a business system, you got to coordinate, and probably you are not going to get all the latest features you want very fast. Okay, let's say if embedded deployment, there is one other thing. If embedded deployment is chosen, you should not use it as a gateway hub system. Let's say, what I'm talking is, do you have any doubts in the embedded before I move on to the other thing that I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. So, what happens is, let's say you have ECC system. This is your backend business system. Let's say that's where your SAP NetWeaver gateway system is. You cannot use that system as a hub system for other backend business systems. Meaning, let's say you have ECC as your backend business system, where your NetWeaver gateway system sits, right? Let's say if you have a CRM system, instead of directly hitting the CRM system, you can come to ECC, and basically it has all the hub functionalities. From there you could go to CRM system, right? Technically you can do it. Right? So, but why you should not do it is because, let's say, if the SAP NetWeaver gateway components on CRM need to be, let's say, if CRM, let's say, if your ECC system is on 3. Can everybody see my screen? It seems Veera cannot see it.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we can.
Okay. Um, so let's say, I mean, what they say is don't use your SAP backend system as a hub system. The problem is, let's say in this case, if we want to um, upgrade CRM to 7.4, then your backend, I mean, your backend system is going to be on a higher stack than your hub system. Then it don't work.
Mm.
I mean, do you understand?
Yeah.
Come again.
Okay, let's say
What you're saying?
yeah, let's say you have your ECC system where
Hmm.
all your SAP NetWeaver gateway components are.
Okay.
Let's assume that it is on 7.2 or 7.3.
Okay.
If you use this system as a hub system for CRM system, technically you could do
Okay.
that because in ECC you have this IWFND foundation and gateway core components so that you
Same.
can use it as a hub system for any of the other backend systems.
Yeah. All you need is a trusted RFC.
Yeah, but why you should not use it, I mean, why you should not, I mean, use as a hub system is because let's say if CRM wanted to go to 7.4, then it will get the newest SAP NetWeaver gateway components and the
Right.
hub system components are going to be in a much
On
lower level than your CRM system.
right.
That is not acceptable. I mean, you could, it don't work that way. So if you want to go with, I mean, central hub deployment option, it is better to have a dedicated SAP NetWeaver gateway system, right? So if you want, I mean, I don't see any client who is doing the embedded deployment, but just for discussion's sake, I mean, if they wanted to go with the embedded deployment options, these are the disadvantages.
Yeah. Embedded.
So it is not giving backward compatibility in that case, right?
Because I mean, it is not backward compatibility because you are trying to keep a system under you which has higher versions of gateway components.
Right. It's not backward compatible. I mean, the system that you are calling is on a higher system, is
Yeah,
on a higher patch
yeah,
or
the routing
upgrade.
and all. I mean, there is a problem. Okay. Okay. Do you have any doubts in, I mean, central hub deployment or embedded deployment?
So
No.
what is recommended the version compatibility? Gateway should always be at same level or it should be
No,
higher?
gateway can be on the same or higher level.
Okay.
Your hub system, I mean, the gateway components in your hub system can be on par with your backend business system or on the higher level, but it should not be on the lower level.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
got it.
that's about the different deployment options. Okay. Now we will see, I mean, we will, since we are a little bit late today, we will extend another 15 minutes if you don't have any problem.
Sure.
Is everybody okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the Gateway Service Builder is the design time environment provided by SAP as part of the SAP NetWeaver Gateway components. In this, I mean, in Gateway Service Builder, the development approach is a little bit different. You are going to create a project, and as part of the project, you are going to do all your data modeling. You are going to, I mean, store all your entities, entity sets, associations, navigations, and you are going to store your runtime artifacts. So the general suggestion is, let's say if you are building one Fiori application, you should have one OData service, and that one OData service is stored as part of one project. So one Fiori application correlates to one SAP Gateway Service Builder project. So, this SAP NetWeaver Gateway Service Builder, you can do all the data modeling design time. So when you generate the runtime artifacts for the design time artifacts that you create, it generates lots of code for you. From there, you could customize it. Don't worry too much about what are all the runtime artifacts, how it generates, because when we go on Monday, I will show it in the system. Okay. But remember this, Gateway Service Builder is a design time environment provided as part of SAP NetWeaver Gateway component, where we can go and create OData models, and we can do all the data modeling and all there. And SAP Gateway Service Builder follows different development approach. Everything starts with project. You create project, you create OData, and you create entities or entity sets, and you create associations, navigations as part of this project. We will see what entities or entity sets and all is going to be. That is about the Gateway Service Builder. Any questions?
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, let's go to entity data model. This is the data model that we use for OData in SAP. Let's see what are all the different components of this entity data model, right? So in entity data model, you will have entity type. Entity type you can compare, since lots of folks are from above background, you can compare an entity type with a structure. Let's say how it starts is, let me take an example, SAP Fiori application. So I have a track sales order Fiori application. What I see here is this is a Fiori master detail application. On the left hand side or in the master section, you will see sales orders, and what is the sales order total, what is the status of it, and you will see lots of details on the left hand side, when it was requested, when it is going to be delivered and all. On the right hand side in the header section, you will see sales order information, and in the tabs below you will see sales order items. When you do data modeling, initially you should come to understanding, okay, how many entities should I create in order to create this application? Let's forget about all the other tabs here. Let's just stick to sales orders and sales order items. I see two different business objects here. One is the sales order and the other one is sales order item. So what I do is, I'm going to create two entities. I will define two entity types, right? I will define two entity types. One is sales order and the other one is sales order item. And each sales order entity, the sales order entity type will have several properties like sales order ID, okay, and order value. I'm not a big of, I'm not a pro in ABAP. Let's say if I do some mistake or something, don't hesitate to correct me. I do a lot of coding, but I'm not, too much strong and ABAP pro and all. Okay, let's say, what is the order date? Let's say if you see here, what are all the, what is who you ship to? And what is the status of it, delivery status, right? These are all the properties. I mean, you can treat it as a structure. I mean, in ABAP, you can treat it as a structure. I mean, let's say entity type can be equivalent to a structure. In the sales order item, what you will have is a description. Probably you will have a sales order ID here. Okay, sales order item ID, description. I mean, what is the quantity? Okay, and what is the net amount? Etc. Okay, so I created two entity types as part of my project. Then what is an entity? Let's say you see here, I mean 38537 is a sales order of type sales order entity type. Basically entity is nothing but an instance of entity type. What is entity type? Entity type is, I mean, bunch of properties with key values. I mean, basically entity type is nothing but, I mean, you throw a bunch of properties with names and types. Let's say sales order ID is probably cat10, order value is something, I mean, currency, order date is date, ship to is probably character 40 or something like that, delivery status is, I mean, probably cat3 or something. So you have bunch of named properties with the data types associated with it. And I mean, in entity types, when you define entity type, I mean, you need to uniquely identify an entity. Then you can make sales order ID as a key because that is the unique property for each sales order. Then you can call it as a key. So basically, entity type is nothing but I mean a structured, I mean named properties, I mean which has data types and has keys. So similarly, what is entity then? Entity is nothing but an instance of type, an instance of entity type. If you see here, sales order 38537 is a instance of entity type sales order.
Yep.
Do you get it?
Yes.
Okay. So when you do the data modeling, I mean the data modeling starts with your UI application. You look at your UI application. Let's say if some functional folks give you wireframe saying that okay, my application should look like this, then you start your data modeling from UI because that is what I mean is driving the model. So for my application, I will create two entity types with all these properties and making sales order ID as a key. And I mean the sales order item, I'm going to throw all these properties with sales order ID and sales order item ID as the key. Since sales order item is tied to sales order, right?
Yes.
So if you see here entity types with entity key is nothing but a subset of properties which will uniquely identify an entity. Entity set is nothing but, I mean, if you see all these entity 38537, 38504, 38503, all these are collection of entities. I mean, they are called entity sets. Okay. And you can create associations. I mean, let's say, what is the association between sales order and sales order item? Sales order contains sales order items, right? So that is the association. So basically, when the association comes into picture is, I mean, let's say when I load all my sales order on the left hand side, whenever I click on particular sales order, I need to get all the sales order items, okay, all the sales order items corresponding to that sales order. So in order to get, an associated entry, first you need to have an association between the entity types. Okay, when you create an association, there is two entities. One is the left hand side entity, or the significant entity, and the right hand side entity, that is the dependent entity. So basically when you have a significant entity, you can go to the dependent entities based on the association. Okay, so from the sales order, you will go to the sales order items, because you will have an association or link. That link is every sales order contains sales order items. Okay, basically whenever I create an association, you will have a navigation property. Okay, you will have a navigation property which is connected to association. Let's say when I create an association between sales order and sales order items, then I will create a I'm just describing all these for theoretical purposes, because we are going to see all this in hands-on session from Monday, but I just want you to understand the concepts. Okay, even if it is little confusing, don't worry about it. When we do OData modeling, or when we create the surveys, probably visually you can see what I'm talking about. At this point of time, even if you have a little bit of doubt, or if it is a little bit confusing, it is okay. But I'm just doing it because so that you can get all these terminology, and also that it will stick with you. Okay. So whenever I create an association, I will create a navigation property on my significant entity or the prime entity. Okay. Let's say if I have sales order, okay, and on my sales order 1, I have created a navigation property, get sales order items, right? This navigation property is connected to an association. Okay, in the first place, we create an association between two entity types, but when we in the runtime, if we wanted to get all the if we wanted to get all the sales order items belong to a sales order, then we use the navigation property. Okay, so as part of our entity data model, we will have entity type and entity key, entity sets, associations and navigation properties. Okay, so in a typical Fiori application, probably you will have like 6 or 7 entity types. It won't be, there won't be any web applications just with single entity and just displaying a bunch of sales orders. From sales orders, you should go to sales order items. From sales order items, you are going to go to the products. Probably whenever you are creating a sales order, you got to add all the sales order items and the products associated with it and all. So in a typical productive environment, any OData service will have like at least 5 or 6 entities and all the associations between them. You are going to traverse from one entity to the other entity or entity set through navigation properties, associations and all. We are going to see all that when we do hands-on. But for all the theoretical purposes, these are the concepts. Okay, so this is bunch of definitions, what the entity type is, what are all the associations, what are all the navigation properties, and all. Do you have any questions?